This video is only one part of an in-depth review, so check out the rest at thegoodride.com. Thanks for watching. Rarely ever have I been an instigator in my life, but I will ride this Burton Instigator. I got on this with the Burton Kendos and the Union Contact Pros. I think I rode it with some other Burton boots too. I might have even rode it with the Burton SLX, which is just like total mismatch price-wise. But it worked. I rode this in pretty hard snow, medium snow, and even a day with a little bit of powder on the groomers. Not quite a powder day, but soft and fun. And to give you a short summary, this is a great entry-level free ride to all mountain board. It has a little taper, so it floats a little better in powder than maybe a standard all mountain board. It has a very stable, forgiving ride in all conditions. And surprise, surprise, for the first time in a long time, I felt like this had really competent edge hold in hard snow. It's one of the most grippy Burton boards I've ever tried. When it comes to sizing, this 155 Instigator fit me really well, especially with my boot size. I might be able to go up one more size for my weight, but I really like the ability to control it better and have my toes and heels near the edges, and that felt much better. It seems like they have a size for almost every rider with this model, but if you're in doubt between weight and boot size, go with the board that better matches your boot size. I think it can handle the extra weight. Sorry, Burton, but that's how I feel. When it comes to the shape, it's tapered directional. And for you beginner intermediate riders out there, tapered directional means it generally takes a little more weight on the back foot on groomers to keep the tail from washing on a turn, but takes less weight in powder, and that's a good thing. With this one, I didn't feel like I needed a lot of extra weight on the tail compared to a lot of double enders, meaning twins or twinish boards out there, and that is cool. The camber profile is flat to a little bit of rocker, and it's just a very long, flat camber profile with a very mellow transition into early rise. It makes this board stable in all conditions. If you're looking at Burton Flying V, that does this when you're one footing and flat basing. So when you one foot off the chair with one boot out, the board kind of wants to auto spin and it's kind of hard to manage. Or if you're on a long flat cat track, it's hard to manage. It's hard to stay straight and to go down that cat track. This has this stable feel like camber, but without the catch of it. And unfortunately, not all the pop of camber, but that's something you can get to down the line later, because this stability is so great to learn on, because in every condition it feels the same. And that's what you need when you're learning and when you're progressing and getting better. Or if you're just on a budget and you just want a cool cruiser, it's going to be great for you there too. It's very easy to skid turns if you get off your game, and I think it's just a very recommendable board for pretty much beginners to maybe even advanced snowboarders or expert snowboarders on a budget, and you just want something to add to the quiver. Now let's talk flex here. From the center, ooh, it is medium stiff. This is stiffer than the Burton Fish. Then you look at the nose here, pretty stiff. Flip it around. Look at the tail here, pretty stiff. But don't let flex be a deterrent here if you want a forgiving, easy riding board. I could butter this much easier than you would think for its flex, but it's still not an easy board to butter. And when it comes to ollies, getting air, it tracks well into little things that you want to pop off, but it doesn't really generate a lot of its own air. It does pretty good for what it is though, and Burton's really good at playing around with core and flex technology to make a board pop higher than it should for what its camber profile is, like being flat to rocker. Camber boards or rocker boards usually have, up more pop. When there's a bend in it somewhere, they usually spring a little more. Now, when it comes to speed, this is pretty stable and pretty fast. The base is pretty slow, but it's not terrible. It's extruded, I think. It's got decent glide and it kept its speed pretty well with a little wax on it. But if you forget to wax it for a week or two, it's still gonna help you survive on the mountain. But it just doesn't have that easy, effortless glide. But that's what you would expect for this price point. Durability and longevity in glide versus that everyday waxer that just really glides. Now, when it comes to uneven terrain and all-day resort riding, this just handles everything really well. You can power over stuff if you kind of get a little out of control and you want to go over a few bumps. You can survive that. It handles micro bumpy, hard snow and uneven snow really well. Late afternoon, messy resort snow where all the snow's been pushed around and moguls are emerging. This is great for that. It just does a good job at all-day resort riding, despite its stiffer flex. When it comes to turn initiation, I felt this was medium, bordering on medium fast. It was a really fun, satisfying turn, and it really surprised me for what it was with the camber profile it had. You could do a pretty decent carve across the groomers. You could even get a little circle carve in. It's just got that middle ground kind of side cut that allows you to explore your turning, go for long drawn out S-turns, down the line S-turns, or go for wide across the groomer turns, or just quick S-turns going into a little circle carve or something like that when you're trying to work on that, and it's great. One of the big surprises about this board, and I was really reluctant to try it on a hard snow day, but I thought I gotta go out and see what this is like because that's what beginners do sometimes, and that might not be ideal, but they still have to ride, and this blew my mind. I was so surprised that it has edge hold. A lot of the Flying V technology and a lot of Burton's boards, even their directional camber, doesn't quite have the edge hold like a lot of companies out there that have disrupted side cuts, you know, a little wave like a Magnetraction or a Mellow Mag or some other type of bump or disruption somewhere in the side cut. Those boards usually grip better than Burton boards. They're not bad, they're just more for people who don't like that and want a more of a smoother side cut and less grab in softer snow. I was really impressed at how well these fresh edges grabbed in hard snow, and I rode it against a couple boards that day that all had disruption in the side cut, like the Jones Mountain Twin, which is very good, and I rode it against the Capita Mercury, which is a great board, and I love it, but it gripped harder than the Mercury and just as good as the Jones Mountain Twin. It was really amazing. I think as the edges get detuned over a little bit of riding, it's not going to grip as well. For a beginner, this edge hold is great because it's going to inspire confidence. This is a great hard snowboard. If it gets really icy, I would go with something with more disruption in the side cut, but this does a great job. And powder, I didn't really get to take this out in powder. There are a lot of other great powder boards out there that were sent to me on the days that I could have ridden this, and I just couldn't do it. But with the setback on board, bigger nose than tail, early rise before the nose, and that flat under your feet, this is going to be a good floater. You can really set this far back and get really good directional float, which is really important as a beginner because if you keep it centered on a powder day, you're going to be more prone to cartwheel. If you set it further back, you get your weight on that back foot and you have more nose entering into the powder, and it really floats. It floats so much better setting your board back, and this sets back really well. It's very recommendable for somebody who might see a lot of powder and they're learning. You can set this all the way back and have a good time and not struggle like a lot of beginners do when they're recommended true twins that don't have any setback on board. So highly recommend this for those that might see some powder. When it comes to switch, I was surprised at how well it rode. Fakie switch when I threw it around, I thought that tapered directional board would feel more tapered and directional, but it didn't. And Burton does cool things with their side cuts to make tapered directional boards not feel as tapered, and therefore they just ride better centered. And this was great for switch. It was a decent butterer, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't like the easiest thing to play around with. And it's not going to be that like ideal park board, but you can definitely go off some jumps with this and maybe even ride some pipe if you want to as a beginner, if that calls to you. Overall, the Burton Instigator I thought was going to be like a lot of flying V boards I've ridden and a lot of flat to rocker boards from Burton I've ridden in the past that are really fun and brilliant in good conditions, but as the snow gets hard, they kind of shit the bed and they become hard to ride and scary almost for beginners and intermediates. This is not one of them, and this is a very recommendable board. All our reviews are a best effort, objective opinion from an average rider's perspective. There's no brand oversight, and we're free to say whatever we want. We send back everything unless it's a favorite, then we ask to keep those or straight up buy them. Now, if you need advice, fill out the eHarmony profile in the Contact Us section of the site. It's the only way I can help you properly. If you want to support us, and if what we reviewed appeals to you, it helps if you buy through our links. So, thanks for watching.